All right, so my favorite movie of all time, Rosemary's Baby.
Yes, famously your favorite movie.
Yes, I'm the one asshole on earth who doesn't really care for Rosemary's Baby.
Definitely not the only one.
I'm not the only one, but I've tried, and I'll try again. I promise. One day. In fact, right after we watched this, I was like, we should watch Rosemary's Baby, and then we should watch the actually hated sequel to that. Anyway, so yeah, famously, I'm not a big fan of Rosemary's Baby or Scream, so my opinion is already shit to a lot of people.
Yes.
And don't listen to her. She just watched Rosemary's Baby for the first time like a freaking month ago.
Not a month ago, but yeah, recently.
Pretty recently.
I really liked it.
I've watched it like 4 times, and I've just never vibed with it. I've always found it to be way too dull, way too long. And I don't know, just not enough happens in it for me. And I know a lot of people say, nothing happens, blah, blah. No, I'm not that kind of person. I watch those types of movies. And it doesn't matter. Let's move on. Let's talk about Apartment 7A. That's what we're here to talk about. But I do want to give you the contrast here. This is coming from someone who doesn't like Rosemary's Baby versus someone who does like Rosemary's Baby. Okay. So this stars Julia Garner from Ozark. She plays a dancer who sustains an injury, and in doing so, she cannot find work, right? She's got a bum leg, and when you're a dancer and all you have is dancing and you don't have a backup plan and you are in the 1960s, I want to say this is 1965, isn't that what it was? 65?
It's either 1965 or 1968.
No, it's not 68. 68 is the first movie.
Oh, okay. So it's 1965.
I think it's 3 years previous.
Yeah.
All right. Prior, sorry. Anyway, so she tries out for this one show that she's really big on, and this leads her to the apartment building from the movie.
Yes.
From the original movie. The what do we call it? What was it? Bradford or something like.
I don't know.
Shit, I don't remember what it's called. I'm not a freaking Rosemary's Baby expert.
I'm not either. I just am a fan. But yeah, she ends up being led to the same apartment building, obviously.
That's all you need
from the original.
So yeah, okay. I'll say this. I love Julia Garner. Yes. Right? So like I already have like skin in the game when it comes to this movie, where I'm just like, it's going to be hard for me to dislike spending time with her. Right? So like, if you're going to do it like this, if you're going to make me sit with a character for a long time, it better be one I like, because this type of movie, I have to be really into the character and the performance to grab onto the film. So the film kind of already had a leg up for me in that department, and I had a feeling that was going to happen because I love her. And that's true with this movie. I think she's wonderful in this, and she takes up the lion's share of screen time here, right? She's probably 90% of the film is her, either alone or the focus of every scene, as it should be. She's the original Rosemary, although I guess it's revealed in this that she's not the original.
No, she's one in a long line of women, unfortunately.
Rosemary just so happens to be the unfortunate one,
the final girl
that we know her fate, that it ends up being successful, and there's people before her who weren't successful. You know, I didn't love this, right? Like, I liked this. I think as far as this kind of story goes, I don't know. I don't know. There's just something missing from it for me. What did you think? I'm curious.
I probably feel like the same way as you. Like, I liked it. Obviously, her performance is probably the best part of the movie. I also like the time period, like accuracy and like costumes and the music and just the makeup and vibes and everything. That's always really cool. But I think, you know, Rosemary's Baby is like the culty apartment, like satanic movie, you know, and this one, it's hard because it's like, of course it's a prequel and it literally is the same exact thing happening to her. So it's like really hard to do anything super different, because it's like, this is the goal of the members of this, you know, satanic cult. Like, they want to bring about the Antichrist, and like that's their whole plan. So it's like, that's not going to be any different from the original, I feel. But there is a cool sequence here, like during the impregnation attempt, that's like a dance sequence that I really liked. So there's some cool style to this, like around the fact that she's a dancer, which I thought was great to add. The ending also incorporates this, and I really enjoyed the ending scene. But as far as like the horror and everything, I feel like the original just has a lot more atmosphere and like scares, and I don't know if it's because it's the original. I just didn't feel... I think also the original has that paranoia that Rosemary feels. It's so much more palpable to me in the original. Whereas in this one, I don't feel that as much. And I think maybe part of it is because our character here is like a single woman. She doesn't have a partner or anything, so... She
doesn't have anyone gaslighting
She doesn't
her.
have anyone... Well, yeah, and she has a friend that she talks to, but she doesn't really open up about... like any of her maybe misgivings or concerns about Minnie and Roman, and like how, you know, how they're just like helping her and inserting themselves into her life in a really manipulative way. Whereas I feel like with Rosemary, she does try and talk to her husband, and he gaslights her. And so she has like all these different angles of like people not trusting her, and like, is she crazy? And I don't feel that in this one, which on one hand is good, because I think if they did it like exactly like that, it would feel very like just like a knockoff, you know, repetitive of the original. But I do think that there's that element that's missing, like her being really paranoid and feeling like, I'm losing my mind, like what's happening, I need to get out of this situation. I didn't feel that until the very, very end, and it kind of feels like too little too late, which I guess because this is a failure and because of what ultimately happens to her, maybe that's how it should go down. But
I think that this film actually adds a decent amount to the original because of that. I think that this, seeing their failed attempts in the past and seeing why it doesn't work, because what we see is a single woman, and that we see like the previous ones are as well.
Yeah.
I think that this is actually illustrates really well like their plan and how it's kind of changed after having failures like this over and over. And it's like, what's the missing piece here? And it's like, we need to get someone who knows her, who she already has an established relationship with, to come in and gaslight her with us, because we are foreigners to her, because we are someone who is new. We're not as trustworthy. If we can get in someone like her husband in on this with us, and she has a long-standing relationship with him and trusts him, that is maybe the missing piece to the puzzle.
Yeah.
So I think that actually this film really adds. I think this is a very good complementary piece to the original because of how the story plays out, much like the first Omen was earlier this year to the original Omen. It has a similar kind of vibe to it.
I think you're right. I think like as a prequel film, I like this. I think it leads into Rosemary's Baby really well, and I agree with you that it adds context and like more richness to the story of Rosemary's Baby. But just like kind of as the standalone film, if you look at it like that, there were things that were lacking for me. And
it adds a lot of tragedy to the film too, because like, you know, Rosemary isn't alone,
right?
And that there are so many before her,
right,
who came to such a terrible fate as she does.
Yeah,
so
it
actually adds to the emotional weight of what she's going through. It's like, you know, not that you want anyone to know what you're going through, but there's so many other people who have experienced this in the past.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, I actually like thinking about that while watching Rosemary's Baby in the future.
Yeah.
So I actually think that this benefits the original film.
I do too. Yeah, I guess I think, and like the more I think about this film, like they do try to do horror. There's not like there's no horror in it at all. Like there's a lot of shots of, there's a lot of dream sequences, which is fine.
I don't think the horror is done very well.
But but what I was going to say is that they do try to do it, but I think what goes along with it is that she's missing that, like, she might be questioning her sanity and like what's happening, but we don't have anybody really else in her life questioning it. Like her friend doesn't ever really be like concerned, like, oh, like you're seeing things. And I think that I mean, we kind of already talked about it. I guess that just plays into it. But yeah, the horror is very predictable and nothing like too crazy. We do get another shot of like the demon, the devil, whatever that thing is, and that has a different look to it than the original, which was interesting, but it wasn't that scary looking. I find that the original is a lot scarier, and I find that scene in general in the original is also a lot scarier, because of like Rosemary's reaction to things are just like, I love that. But this is it's still horrible. Like it's not like, it's not easier to watch necessarily. It's just, it doesn't feel as scary. So
I think that the writers came up with the framework and the idea, and they had a good idea when it came to how to execute this. But then it just kind of became like them really just going through the motions.
Yeah.
And telling that story. I don't feel like there's a lot of artistic flair to it. I think Julia Garner brings a lot to her performance.
Definitely.
But as far as like the direction goes, I think it's just kind of like getting from point A to point B just to tell that story. And there's no like, I don't know, there's no artistic flair to it for me. It just kind of feels like it is being kind of like told in a way that doesn't feel all that unique, right? It feels very derivative. And I don't know, the execution of it leaves stuff to be desired. But this is from the director of Relic, and I knew that she was going to be able to handle the dramatic elements very well, but I was curious on how they would handle the horror aspects, and kind of what I had feared. It just feels very, I don't know, like bland. Yeah, I'm definitely not in love with it or anything. It doesn't surpass the original, but as we already said, as a companion piece, I think it adds to the story. And it was more entertaining than the original for me, but yeah.
Not for me. It is kind of a shame, too, because I feel like we don't really get a lot of, like, the satanic panic is kind of a thing of the past as far as horror films go. We definitely still get some horror movies that involve like cults and such, but they don't feel the same as like something like Rosemary's Baby or All the Colors of the Dark, or like, any of those like older, maybe Giallo-esque type of movies that
Chicks being pregnant with the Antichrist is like the 2024 trope.
Not that.
But we've gotten three major films
the satanic conspiracy, I guess, is what I'm talking about. But you're right. Yeah, this year we have had a lot of Antichrist babies, for sure. So it's definitely, and that part is for sure like still very alive and well. I just more mean like when I think about the original and just like the whole apartment complex being like in on it, like, obviously Hereditary would be like the closest thing, but Hereditary is a very new version of it. And I don't know, I'm just more thinking of like it from a nostalgic point, I suppose. But yeah, those are my thoughts.
I think it's a fine companion piece to the original. I think if you're somebody who's like a diehard, like a lot of people are, you'll probably dislike this. But if you're somebody who's kind of like, yeah, the original's fine, right? Or like, I like the original, I don't think it's the end-all be-all, and you're fine with like a companion piece, then I think this will be good. I think that if you are like a staunch supporter and lover of the original, and it's like the film for you, then you're just going to think that this is an inferior copy of it.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say you're wrong. I just personally, as a story, like, I think that this is a cool piece, because they do a good job of like recreating the feel of the 60s and the apartment building and the characters, Diane Wiest coming and playing Minnie.
Yeah, she did a great job.
You know, and Roman. Like, these characters feel, I haven't seen the original in a while, but I feel like they did a damn good job of making this feel like a legitimate prequel.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I don't know. It was good.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't like a horrible watch or anything. So, not a waste of time.
No.
Yeah.
So that's that.
That's that.
Apartment 7A. Yeah, I don't... And there is a sequel to Rosemary's Baby that, like, no one ever talks about.
Maybe one day you can watch it. I'm curious.
I'm super curious. That has, like, a 3.3 on IMDb.
Definitely think we should rewatch Rosemary's Baby for you, because I'm curious how that, like, watching this will change how you feel about it, and then we can go into the sequel as well. It'll be
yeah,
nice,
I'd love to cover them.
Yeah. For
sure. Because I know people love that movie, and I want to like it. Of course.
I really want you to like it too. I mean,
but look what's happened to Rosemary's Baby. Came out in 1976. It was a TV movie. Has a 3.3 on IMDb and can only be found on YouTube. There is no rental for it. Pretty much the studios tried to forget it existed. They also remade Rosemary's Baby, which I did watch. It was like a made-for-TV movie.
I think that's a mistake for sure.
With I don't even who it was. She was black. I remember that.
Okay.
It's not even on IMDb under Rosemary's Baby. There it is. TV miniseries. Oh yeah, Zoe Saldana. Saldana. How do you say her last name? Saldana.
I don't know.
Saldana. Yeah, I watched this once again. It's not for me, but it's 4 hours long.
Oh wow!
So if you found the original boring, and you wanted to see a 4-hour version of it, that exists as well. So that's that. Anyways, all right. We'll see you in the comments.
Bye.
Bye.